We are in the Orinoco Plains, a vast floodable flatland covering 40% of Venezuela's central region. There are two clearly marked seasons in this region. The dry season, which lasts from December to May when food is scarce, the trees lose their foliage, and everything is covered in a blanket of ochre dust, and when most of the lagoons dry up, forcing the animals to congregate in small wooded areas, mainly in the riparian forests. Then there is the rainy season, which goes from May through to November, and floods practically the entire area, turning it into a great estuary overflowing with life and food. The most outstanding feature of the Venezuelan plains is precisely their bird life, in particular their waterfowl. The birds that feed on fish, invertebrates, and aquatic insects include a large number of different species that find here an ideal environment to live and prosper. The kingfisher has a particularly individual style of fishing. It plummets down onto its victims. The varied group of egrets and herons employ different techniques before going after their prey with their beaks. Here are some examples. The great egret stands motionless as it lies in wait for its prey, be it big or small, ready to pounce. The white-necked heron employs the same technique, and although it sometimes fails in its attempt, it is obvious that this strategy for obtaining food is very effective. The reddish egret, seen here with its white plumage, strides around in all directions in pursuit of its prey. The tricolored heron moves slowly through the water, only speeding up when it sees a chance to make a catch. The yellow-crowned night heron moves even more slowly, and when it sees a potential victim, it freezes, ready to pounce. The rufescent tiger heron remains quite still, perfectly camouflaged against the vegetation. Soon he will swoop onto its prey, which could be a tiny fish or an enormous eel. The wood stork scratches around in the swamp with its legs, while it keeps its enormous beak open under the water, ready to snap shut when it comes across a victim, trapping it in its strong jaws. The giant jabiru pecks continuously in search of prey. See how big it is compared to the wood ibises that are keeping it company. So does the scarlet ibis. It gets its color from a special type of crab on which it feeds. The roseate spoonbill moves its head from side to side with its beak open. The cormorant is an excellent diver that catches fish between its strong jaws. The black skimmers in the distance skim the surface of the water with their beaks, and when they come up against a fish, they swallow it and carry on fishing. Other waders have a varied diet that may or may not include small fish. One such is the gray-necked wood-rail. The common gallinule feeds on insects and plant matter and is an excellent swimmer. The sun bittern eats mainly insects and small invertebrates, which it catches in a swift movement of its beak. The buff-necked ibis searches for invertebrates in the savanna and swamps. The jacana, with its long legs and toes, finds insects among the floating vegetation. Like a variety of other creatures, birds are oviparous. That is, they reproduce by means of eggs. Unlike other oviparous creatures, birds' eggs have to have the warmth of the parent's body, until the embryo has developed sufficiently to be hatched and survive. In Venezuela, the nesting season tends to be during the rainy season, since this is when a wide variety of animal and plant species on which the birds feed also reproduce. There are some birds, however, such as the hawks, that prefer the dry season. The strategies developed by birds for reproducing their kind are extremely varied and are based on the need to sit on the eggs and on the fact that they will have to leave them and the nestlings from time to time to go in search of food. This is particularly important when only one of the parents is in charge of rearing the chicks. Some species use holes dug in trees by other animals. Others lay their eggs on the ground, taking advantage of natural camouflage. Kingfishers build or use holes or tunnels in gullies near rivers or pathways. Some swallows and wrens nest in any hole they find in buildings. Most birds build their nests in trees. The variety of shapes, sizes, and materials used to build the nests is far greater than anyone can imagine, since for these species, camouflage and inaccessibility are the two predominant factors for reproducing successfully. They go from the elementary platforms of the pigeons and doves, made out of sticks, to the huge, elaborate, thorny constructions of the thorn birds that are nearly 3 meters tall. And from the tiny cups built by the seed eaters to the large platforms of the birds of prey. A large number of species, such as the banana quit and the euphonia, weave balloon-shaped nests among the branches of a tree. The incubation period lasts for 2 to 3 weeks for small birds and up to 3 months for the jabiru. Some species are sufficiently developed when they hatch to enable them to accompany their parents shortly after they break out of their shell. These are the nidifugous species. Most birds, however, are nidiculous. They are not highly developed when they hatch and have to remain in the nest for several weeks until they can fend for themselves. Then the parents leave them or chase them out of their territory so that they can find their own. Next, we're going to see some species and how they reproduce in their natural habitat. Gregarious birds, such as egrets and herons, have their own nesting style. They gather together in giant heronries consisting of thousands of birds, where it is the group strategy that prevails above all others to counteract potential enemies and successfully hatch and rear the young. Other birds of the same biological order, such as the maguari stork, nest in isolated pairs, building huge platforms in the treetops. Sometimes a single tree is shared by several pairs. In high-up, inaccessible places, we find the buff-necked ibis. The tops of palm trees make ideal nesting places, as does an old, unused mill. Birds of prey, such as the white-tailed hawk, usually use trees in the savanna during the dry season, where they build strong platforms to support their nests. Here we see a chick ready to defend itself from our invading camera. The double-striped thickney with its large eyes is an excellent walker that does not build a nest. It simply lays 1 or 2 eggs on the ground. its obscure coloring perfectly camouflaged against the surrounding area. The southern lapwing nests on the ground, although not as precariously as the double-striped thickney. When an enemy is in sight, the southern lapwing brings a whole series of evasive tactics into play to mislead the aggressor as to the possible location of the nest. The young are born highly developed, and as soon as the last chick is hatched, the entire brood goes after the parent birds. The yellow-throated spinetail is a small member of the builder family that usually builds balloon-shaped nests of spiny twigs. They normally build on branches overhanging water, and the mate helps to build the nest. The plain-fronted thornbird belongs to the same family. An unceasing and untiring worker, it makes enormous nests, and its call, produced by both the male and the female, is one of the most familiar sounds in the Venezuelan countryside. The pied water tyrant, an eye-catching member of the flycatcher family, nests on branches and bushes overhanging water. Just nearby, also hanging over the water, the rusty-margined flycatcher of the same family as the pied water tyrant has a nest. Its habit of approaching the nest from a nearby branch, and always the same one, is typical of this species. As we shall see, wooded and mountainous areas, farms, and even residential areas are all suitable nesting places for a large number of bird species. The southern beardless tyrannulate, measuring about 4 inches long, is one of the smallest members of the flycatcher family. It lives at altitudes of up to 1,500 meters in thickets and gardens and among stubble. It feeds on the insects and berries it finds on the lower branches of trees and in bushes. Here we see one building its cup-shaped nest in the branches of a pine. After an incubation period of about 2.5 weeks, 1 or 2 chicks hatch. The chicks are fed by both parents, who keep the nest clean and recycle the nutrients by eating the excrement of the young from time to time. Nearby, an orange-billed nightingale thrush has also found a place to nest in the branches of some bushes. This bird is a member of a family known for its melodious song. There are 2 featherless chicks in this nest from an original clutch of 3 eggs. At the beginning, when the chicks are still unable to maintain their body temperature, the male brings food to the female and the young, and later both parents take turns bringing food to the nest, particularly earthworms. The common wren is a tiny bird of a family with considerable singing ability, which specializes in making its nest in any cavity, in this case, a piece of iron pipe. There's no doubt that this strategy is highly efficient, since there is just one entrance, and that extremely small, so that a large number of predators are denied access. The saffron finch habitually builds its nest in the form of a cup, hiding it well among the branches. This time, however, it took advantage of an old boot for its nest. While the female feeds the chicks, the male patrols nearby on watch, waiting his turn. The young are fed on plant matter that has been regurgitated from a parent bird's crop, something that happens frequently among the seed eaters, the family to which the saffron finch belongs. An extremely colorful bird is the blue-hooded euphonia, which belongs to the same family as the blue jays and tanagers. Here we have a male, whose plumage is much more ornate than that of the female. Both the male and female help to build their balloon-shaped nest, and while they also both share the task of rearing the chicks, it is the female that keeps them warm during the first few days of life. A small dark-backed sisk, one of the seed eaters, has found a place to nest in the branches of a tall pine. Both the male and female are extremely dedicated to raising their young. The female never strays far from the nest and sings nearby as she waits for her mate, who brings her food directly to the nest. As is very common among birds, the female eats the eggshells once the chicks have hatched, thereby replenishing any calcium deficiency and avoiding leaving any signs of the chicks near the nest for predators to see. The rest of their behavior follows the usual pattern. Both parents take turns obtaining food until the chicks are able to fend for themselves. The male gives the food to the female, who then gives it to the chicks. The rufous-colored sparrow is a small bird with a delightful song that is found in most parts of the world. It has a characteristic that it shares with some 200 other species in the equatorial belt, that of using helpers in its reproductive process. It is not known why a young bird from a previous clutch will sometimes refrain from reproducing for 1 or 2 years in order to help its parents care for the nest and feed the chicks from subsequent clutches. The male rufous-colored sparrow disappears from the scene after mating, and it is the female that takes charge of rearing the chicks, accompanied in this case by a young bird who helps to feed the chicks. The female's trust in her assistant is such that she leaves the chicks with her as though she were the real parent. Birds, like other creatures on this planet, play an important role in maintaining the balance of nature. Any alteration in this balance, wrought by man's excessive intervention, puts these undisputed marvels of nature in jeopardy. It is up to us to see that this does not happen.